Thank you so very much for joining again on the session 3 of HR Analytics. I could see some new people joining in today's session. So just to tell you again who really I am Dr. Anubha Mauryawalia, your, for today's session trainer, and in fact, I would be saying myself teacher, in fact, rather. So to give you a small background, I am currently, having a hat of being a director with Prisma Philosophy. It's a training company, focuses on the soft skills, behavioral, and the quality program. My experience lies with the Honeywell, ICICI Bank, and Moody's ICL certification into the L&D domain and quality vertical. Specifically, after pursuing my BCom honors from LSR, Master, MCom, and then PG from Nasi Monjee, Mumbai, I always love to talk about my PhD topic, which was on followership, because the world talks about leadership, but we were, actually give up the research into the component of the followership. So you can read various papers on followership to enhance your knowledge. Training is in my blood, and I love to get connected with people. So I wear a lot of hats, not only as a trainer, but also as a teacher, facilitator, consultant, and also as a speaker. So that's a small snippet about me. And these HR analytics course that we have been doing it, actually I must compliment ISTD for organizing such topics for great professionals like you. And yes, as if you want to reach out to me on my social media platform, you can get in touch with us with the hashtag Prisma Philosophy or else Anubha Walia. And in the social media, definitely by @Prisma Philosophy and @Anubha Walia. So that's small snippet. These are the certain set of programs that Prisma is offering. And, we have a program specialized for executives, Prisma for managers, Prisma for leaders, and Prisma for total quality management. And here in, quality management program, we have HR analytics, very deep dive in between. But trust me, you guys are lucky that ISTD is actually offering this course to you and you're a part of it. Okay, so certain tips and hygiene for the session. We will be using the chat box as an activity. Request to put yourself in mute mode. And again, the polling, we will be having some sort of polling in the future sessions, which will be required as and when. All right, so before I initiate to give you what we covered in the session 1 and session 2, which was session 1 focused on the overview of HR. We focused on the concept of human resource with the people and the workforce and understood the difference between all three of them. We gave the deep dive into the benefits of HR analytics and a very strong component highlight onto the history of analytics. Then what is the importance of this and what are the current challenges and the challenges what employee face in the HR analytics we focused on. Session 2 focused on the 3 element, which was the tools which you can use for working on analytics. What are the career trajectory and analytics domain? So what are the various domain where analytics are currently used very strongly? Our today's topic, which is on the session 3, we will focus on the training and development metrics element. So we will cover the 4 things today, which is function of L&D, which is LMS and versus LRS. Training the top metrics, what are these ones? Using data in training improvisation, and also what are the various innovative way to measure training effectiveness. These are the innovative ways. I'm going to share with you the 7 of them today, and you can enhance and use it at your corporate level wherever you're working. Okay. So if you have any query and question, I would request, let's make it very engaging. And for this, please unmute yourself or else just put the question in a chat box and towards the end, I'll take that up. Okay, so before I initiate the importance of HR analytics as a function, it's really important to understand in a corporate world or in your current role. Are you working on any project or are you working on a process, right? So these are the 2 things that has to be taken care. Now, when you talk about the project, Okay, if you're doing some set of project. So what we do there is we measure the project based on the data which we capture, and there the data is 80% and analysis is 20%. So for an example, if you're implementing Six Sigma in HR, or let's say in training and development division, and there you will capture 80% of data and you will apply the DMAC principle that we have in Six Sigma, and there you will do 20% of analysis. But when we understand onto the process front, it works on the dashboard, and that dashboards gets prepared through the Excel and all. So there you capture 20% of data when I'm talking about the process, and 80% goes on to the analysis. So process is very critical and very important. You will see that majorly manufacturing companies, they really focus very strongly into the processes, and in that processes they see from if input to an output is one process, and the output becomes the input of another process, that the element, you have to figure it out and analyze it. You can either work on rejection, you can either work on defects, or non-satisfaction, so there are a lot of things the analysis can be done. So you first important aspect of analytics as a function is measuring it as a project or measuring it as a process. So this is very key. So let us try and understand. In the last session, as I spoke to you about on the screen, you can see there's so many tools which are available and you can use as many tools. But again, I will reinstate, kindly become perfect in one of them, so this is the best way to get enhanced onto the analytics. So I mean, I have used my Minitab, I have used very strongly SPSS, I have used very strongly Tableau, and SAP I have actually implemented and I have worked on it. So these are the four which are very close. But then if someone again asks me, I still use Excel, I still use SPSS, and I still use Tableau. So these are the three of them very close to me. Okay, so when we talk about the steps in HR analytics, so again, always remember the popularity of the tool actually works on to the the usage, that is what you are exactly learning and what is the performance that you're looking at. So based on that, you need to work on gathering of the data, that your insights element, focusing which highlight on the sense of the data that you want to work on by analyzing and monitoring it, and finally foresighting it into the predictive model that you want to work on. So just to give you a small example here, when we go back and see a good 3-4 decades back, so credit card statement used to come, and we all used to get that statement, and it has all the information about us. Now that data actually became so very important, and how it got evolved over a period of time, not only by the banks but also by the insurance company, and then slowly and gradually it started moving towards the a company who are into the automobiles, and they actually started pitching to us with their various kind of products that they have. And this is what you will find Amazon is also doing it, and this is also, you'll see Flipkart is also doing it, because they're using and analyzing on a day-to-day basis. Now, very simply to make you guys understand here is, we all use social media platform, and just try once that if you are looking for one particular product that you want to buy, right? So suppose you go to Amazon and you buy one particular product. Let's say you want to buy Forest Essential one cream, and the moment you will write that, the Google will pick it up, and suddenly you will see an email coming on to that. You will also see it was coming and reflecting on your social media, Facebook, and you will see the ad will start popping up in your day-to-day working, and you will find how come this is happening. So this is what analytics does. So Google has more information about you than you would be having about yourself. This is what I have actually learned. So they really have a lot of information about you. So it measures everything. Now, how we can use it in our today's practice, what we have been doing it. So uh, to take care of the connectivity element, I'll just put off my switch off my video here. Right. So, let me put it this way. When I'm talking about the analytics, here, so we know that we are aware of the fact that the online environment is so active in the current digital age that we can now keep track of actually a lot of things, as I mentioned right now. So analytics is collected everywhere. It gives a valuable insight. But the most important question here is, you as an HR professional, you would have observed that you might be having one direct reportee, that is your boss, or could be a dotted line reportee, and suddenly you see a change in your boss, or there is a super boss also of yours. Now what happens is, every individual, every boss will ask the data from a different a dashboard altogether. So the requirement becomes very different. Another challenge that you will find is that 5 days back you completed one element, and the one of the common statement I have seen, what HR is doing is, you ask them, what are you doing? He says, I'm making this metrics, I'm making this dashboard, I have to prepare this particular Excel, and so on. And suddenly, if your boss had asked certain data and you've given the data 3 days back, updated it till 3 days back, and he'll say, no, I'm looking for the current data. And then you are again fumbled up, and he says, oh God, again you have to start reworking. Now, what are the challenges that we all face when we are working in HR, right? Now, the challenges, what happens is, I'll give you an example. Let's say I want to know how many people are bachelors working in my company. Now, suddenly when you will, the data sheet, the computer is illiterate, let me tell you this, because it will only read what you have written. Now what happens is, somebody would have written bachelor's as BA, someone would have written as BCom, someone would have written full form of bachelor, someone would have written only B, someone would have written BACH. Now how to capture that? So my important insight and input to all of you is, whenever you are making a data, and whenever you're working on the analytics front, or you're working on any tool, please instruct the tool very clearly, so that in whenever anybody is filling up the matrix or in the tool or putting an insight, they in the drop down they know which one to capture, so that there is no confusion. Major problem I have seen in this is into the when we start making a sense of the data, that is the insight one when I was talking to you about. So do take care of that element, and only request here is that. So now if I give you an example, let's take e-learning approach, right? So now learning analytics helps to gain unparalleled e-learning experience, whether it is about for example educational institution or business employee training. However, to create a productive environment, where the employees would thrive, both traditional and digital classroom have to rely on actionable data. Now, when I'm talking about these data, now this data can come from every measurable factor. It could be from your learners' feedback. It could be from your employees or trainees' score, the test or an exam which they had given after the session, or it could be from the amount of time they would have taken to complete the particular course. So the factors as a personal preferences, it the skill level or the individual achievements, which allow every HR professional or an educator, you need to take a very closer look at to how the students are performing, how the trainees are performing, how the employees are performing. So now these kinds of insight you will see, it is very much possible in the e-learning platform. And here you will see, but sometimes you will find it very difficult to get the results on the employee motivation, engagement, knowledge retention, and sometimes even you don't know what are their interests, or for that matter what are their learning styles, whether it is cognitive, whether it is psychomotor, whether it is on the affective manner, which is when we say learning style, furthermore to deep dive, whether they are more on a visual side, or they are more on an auditory side, or they're more on a kinesthetic style. So this way, if you can get your information from your data, that will really give you an insight. That's why we say you need to predict, and then accordingly you need to prescribe. So learning and analytics actually improves the work environment as well as the overall experience of the people. So let's try and understand, learning need is using data analytics in learning and development division. So with data, when it is gathered about your employees or your learners, about their job performance, about their activities, whether they succeeded or they failed, specifically I'm talking about in e-learning platform. So this is where you will find an insight, the skills people lack, what that needs to be focused on, what needs to be plugged in, and you can further enhance and see it in your Excel. And I'm sure you all have been using the Excel. So as a data scientist or a data analyst, you can discover what a person knows or what she doesn't know, the best way to engage with him or her, and you will sometimes even help L&D team to predict who will succeed and who will need additional support to review. So this is, let me give an example. When I was in ICICI, zonal office in Chandigarh, I remember that we used to get the dashboard on how many people are, actually taking a training program. So there was a mandate during my time of completing 4 mandates, and it was a part of balanced scorecard into the learning perspective. And it used to had certain set of weightage. So we will do this element when we will talk about HR performance management, ladies and gentlemen here. So I'll just focus on that. If anybody was lacking or did not score a particular, score in the e-learning or else during the in-person training program, it used to affect their, balance scorecard, the person balance scorecard. So we actually, prepared one is balance scorecard to measure your performance, and definitely we had a daily metrics about the person on how the person is performing. So you will find that these performance actually support the entire context. And then I being the, on a regional role, I actually helped and saw that how we can actually enhance the functional knowledge of the people, especially working in a bank. Now, functional knowledge has to be very, very important, and it's key for banking, because the customers, one is you cannot give them a wrong information, and then definitely we have a certain set of processes which has to be adhered as per the set guidelines by RBI. So there you will find such elements get used. Now the data analysis actually gets used why we are getting some certain set of critical requests, so just to give you an example, suppose you go for an account opening, right? Now in a bank, the process says the account should be opened in 7 days. Okay, now when I say 7 days, this becomes my turnaround time. Now the 7 days turnaround time is become a critical when on the 8th day the customer calls up the call center and it hits the branch. Now we actually got to know from the data that how many type of critical requests are actually getting generated and how we need to actually measure it. And you'll be so surprised, ladies and gentlemen, in account opening, whenever we used to get a critical request, because it used to hit our balance scorecard, we got to know, we got deep dive into the data that what are the parameters. So if there are 10 parameters, the account opening can get rejected, which that particular 10 parameter, which is the most critical one, where it is getting a hit to a branch, to a region, and then to a zone, So again, as I said, the request here is, please ensure that you need to take care about this. Okay, so I see, ma'am, that 4 mandates learning metric is still there in ICICI Bank, 5% weightage in BSc. Honestly, Pramod, it would have changed because I'm talking about when I was there. I was serving from 2005 to 2010. They do have the BSc, but currently during my tenure, when I made a balance scorecard, there was a changes, based on the requirement, based on the ask of the industry and asked by the senior leadership team. So I had made changes 3 times during my tenure. So currently it is there 5%. I think we need to check that current, what is the current weightage. So I hope I have been able to answer you, Prabodh. Okay, so let's try and understand furthermore here. Now, the most data presented in the, what you will find is it into the spreadsheet, right? So there are tables, there are LMS or LRS, which gets collected. Okay. Now, when I talk about these tracking measure, putting a data to work is exactly a broad analytics component. So I use various statistical technique to use, where you will find majorly the researchers and data scientists are using those particular statistical technique. It could be your correlation, it could be a regression, it could be your chi, it could be your ANOVA, MANOVA, so we should be knowing when to use what, and we'll have a small session on that also in the near future. Now, what is generally measured and tracked? You will see employee engagement, which is the maximum currently, which is going on, which is by 63%. Performance rating, retention, hypo, percentage of employees with the development plan, readiness for job, internal hiring percentage, which is OJP, which we say open job posting, diversity of workforce, level of expertise and competencies, right? So there are a lot, but how do we get the data is, again, as I said, we can use it, by data, by understanding on a graphical method, and the results of every employee within that division of where they're working. You actually get to know what are their requirement onto the training or onto the performance. So studying the visualization on, for an example, engagement here, with the various aspect of training, that how many learners start watching the video versus how many completed it, and whether the learners completed the game based review or listen to the podcast or not, so you can actually extract. So we also used to extract, when I was working with Honeywell and I was doing a project on a SAP implementation, as I mentioned in the past. So you will be surprised that if LMS, if e-learning is, let's say, for 30 minutes, we used to actually pull down the data, that how many actually enrolled for that data, how many of them actually completed within a week's time or within 5 days or 4 days. It is all on the requirement. How many actually completed the test, which is there in between the e-learning. We actually used to pull out the data, that how many actually passed, and we also used to get that, how many people had the same set of answers during that particular time, whether they were sitting together or whether they're actually cheating or they did it by themselves. So again, it is on the requirement of yours, and based on that you can see the trajectory of the person. So data on performance and quiz score can actually reveal, that whether learners are retaining or applying that skills and knowledge after training has been ended. So you will be so surprised that, again, we had done the same very thing after doing, in-person session. That is one. Secondly, after doing the e-learning, and then we used to have a simulation program. Once the employee has crossed all the 3 levels, how much that person is applying that knowledge into the day-to-day task, and what is the outcome the person is giving, we really used to extract. And that types of data analysis becomes relevant when I talk about in an e-learning platform. So you will see data can be very loosely classified as a quantitative or a qualitative. Now, quantitative data includes things you can count. Let me revisit this again, ladies and gentlemen. Quantitative data, which includes things that you can count. I can count attrition rate, I can count the weight, I can count the number of people joining, these are all quantitative data. I can count the age. So there are measuring tool which is available. Now these things you can put it into order, or in a comparing mode, and things which you can group or categorize also. When I say categorization, so I can say uh, experience between 0 to 5, or 5 to 10. So this is called categorization and grouping. When I talk about qualitative data, it pertains to people's perception and experience. Now, for an example, in today's session, I have, a wonderful team here. Let me read out. So I have Anuj Gandhi, I have Ashish Sharma, Indrajit Singh, Krishna Kant, Neelam, Neha. If I ask you this question, how much beautiful Neelam is and how handsome Indrajit is, right? Very difficult to answer because you can't measure it. A person is beautiful, we can't say that. The same very way, let's say my services, how's my services? Good, very good, excellent. Now for me, if my mood is good, I will say very good. Ideally should have been excellent, but I mostly use very good as a day-to-day life, then I will say very good. So there, the qualitative element actually is the variable component. The variable, that's why they say, has to put it into the quantitative manner. So you will see that we put 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 5 being the most happier and the 1 being the least happier. So you need to take care and understand on this bit, right? So let us try and understand furthermore here. Let me just put the participants into this thing. Okay, so the qualitative data examples on an e-learning context might be how many learners completed a course. So that is a quantitative element, right? Number of hours of training employees in each division has completed. Male versus females, how many of them have completed? How many new hires were still employed after 1 year? So you will see these are the information that actually start coming in. Right now, employees or a team sales revenue before and after training, whether top performing sales personals are in the group or not, was master degree or not, how many applicants with a master degree also have a 5 or more years of project management experience. So quantitative data examples in an e-learning context might be easy to handle. So here what happens when we talk about, when we go further more deep dive, we work on the LMS versus LRS, right? So let me put up this question on the chat box for ladies and gentlemen here. Anyone has worked on LMS or LRS? Please mention yes or no onto the chat box. Okay, so and none of you, I could see Anuj is saying no. So Ajay Batra, you have one question. I'm going to address it in some time. Okay. So Priyanka mentioned that in phase of implementation, you have used LMS and LRS. Okay. Krishna Kant has used it. Very nice. Okay. It is used in my organization, but not use it directly. Okay, Ashish, thank you so much. Majorly, Yamini is also saying no. Neha is also said no. Okay, Ajay, your question is that means qualitative analysis is on a subjective feeling scales. Ajay, yes. So qualitative is where it is more on the variable component, and it is subjective in nature. And when we talk about quantitative, it is all a number driven, a numerical figure. It becomes easier. So to make it very simple, wherever there is a measuring tool available, then it is a quantitative data. When it is a variable tool and no measuring tool is there, then it is a qualitative data. That's the only difference I can say. How much Ajay Batra is trustful, you can't measure it. It is very subjective in nature. So that is why we say. So I hope I have been able to answer. So I could see, as I asked, how many of you have worked on LRS and LMS, to give you a very simple insight here. Okay. So ladies and gentlemen, yeah, I'll just put My chat box again off. Okay. All right, so you can see on the screen the learning record store. It's a a store learning record, and it allows reporting against the record, allows for exporting of raw learning data. Now LRS are as it's mentioned here, new type of storage system that allows the Experience API. Experience API, ladies and gentlemen, is an e-learning software specification that allows learning content and a learning system to speak to each other in a manner that records and track all type of learning experience. So learning experiences are recorded in a learning record store. Okay, and learning record system can exist within the traditional learning management system. So or it could be on their own. So this is how it works. Now what can LMS do that LRS can't? So LMS can actually track compliance requirement, competency management, manage users, roles, instructors, talent management, e-commerce for course enrollment, skill gap analysis, chat rooms, forums, Dropbox section, email integration, announcements, ability of the learner to check their grades, calendar integration, email integration. Again, it can go beyond invites, let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, here. Then announcement from admins to learners, calendar integration. So, you will see the proprietary social network inside the LMS is class roster, integrated wiki, video conferencing, even RSS notification, podcasting, Google Maps, news feeds, roster to view who are the one who's going to take up the sessions, their profiles and their photos, even the site analysis. So so what happens in the LMS, what LMS do is a bigger picture. If on the screen, if you will see, it shows that some of the function of a typical LMS. These are scheduling, assessment, delivery, course management, player reports, certification, curricula, search, preferences. The blue box here, you can see the learning record is a part of the LRS can, take over. So, quite frankly, ladies and gentlemen, here the flexibility of LRS means that it does a better job of recording and keeping the data in a typical LMS. So most LMS aren't designed for tracking social learning experience, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so that's why we need LRS, which handles those things very easily. So whenever you're working onto the training and development, or for an example, organization development specifically into the human process intervention, so in that you will find you can use LRS and you can actually start working into the predicting the data, that what exactly the people are feeling and analyzing and understanding. Okay, so for an example, it again depends on the various factors. As LMS does more than LRS, and ideally, let me tell you, both are equally important. But the factors that we need to consider is, the first one is, do you really need to schedule an instructor-led classroom? Okay, now in an LMS, it can actually handles the roster management. It handles the waiting list. It works on the reminder notice, conflict checking, prerequisite checking and more. So just to give you a very simple example here, in Honeywell, um, you know, uh, so we had regular meetings, right? So we all have emails and in an email account. For an example, my dashboard of my daily schedule, okay, from 9 o'clock to 9 to 6 p.m. This used to be my official hours, working official hours. So suppose Neelam, okay, wants to have a meeting with me. So she can view my calendar and she can see on which particular date and on which particular time I'm free. And then she can block my calendar. Now that request will come to me and I can either accept or reject. If I accept, then we'll have a call. And if I don't, then I will ask her to reschedule it to on this particular time or this particular date. So accordingly, you will see in the sessions, in the LMS, you can actually do this scheduling into the system. And in LRS, this can't be done. So here, the historical data only can be picked up in LRS. Okay. So the second question is, so do you have a mandatory training or a training requirement in your company? Now, for an example, I have seen major corporates nowadays have started doing a lot of courses, both online as well as in person. Now, if you're highly regulated industry, you will see the chances that you have a recurring training requirement. Now, for example, you may require employees take, for example, hearing protection every year if you're regulated by OSHA, that is occupational safety hazard, stuff. So if you are using a good compliance focused LMS, you can set up this requirement once and the LMS will manage it by default for you. So this is what we used to do in ICICI Bank. There is some of the programs which were threshold mandatory to be completed by every one of us, and in a year. So it used to send us the reminder that this much is actually pending from your end. And again, do you have a large library of courses? So even the large library of the both instructor led and e-learning courses, there are some of the courses like Scrum or AICC, and you don't want to throw them away. You want to keep it. So until you get them republished in Experience API, you are going to need to keep your LMS. So that is how it works on. Okay, so let me give you another insight. So it is a time for you to measure the effectiveness of your training program, and I'm sure we all do that. So if you are not sure where to start and how to initiate, so I'm just helping you out with these 10 training metrics for all of you. Now, how you can start. The first one is increase retention. So most human resource department, you will see they measure the rate of retention in all and various jobs, whichever role you are in. And you will find that they have been doing it. I see some in the chat box question coming up. Let me just see. Okay. Okay. Can you please elaborate more on LRS? Okay, so Neha, LRS is again in a very simple manner. It records all your information. Okay, and it will give you every aspect of your historical data. So whatever information you want in whichever manner, LRS will take care of it. So my suggestion would be in your company, just go to your LMS and have a word with your IT team and ask them to show the LRS, right? So the practical demonstration, when you will see, it's very easy to understand, and it's again on a technical side. My question here would be, see the report of LRS, right? So in the LRS report that gets generated, it gets generated just like a dashboard. It will have all the information, and then it will be really beneficial for you to analyze that data. So again, if you're on a technical side, you can actually work on the LRS. If you are on a data and scientist side, then you will start reading the data from it. Okay, great. Thank you, Neha. So let's move on. Okay, so as I was mentioning about increased retention, so you will build the online search system to search your existing courses in the catalog. So you can track the assessment questions in the Microsoft Access. You will be so surprised that you are essentially rebuilding your a key LMS function, and in that way, if you're not integrated, it will not support you. So it is really a very important when you measure training success this way, higher retention point to a successful training program can be attained. Now you will see that many a times the frontline people leave the job, and there is a high turnover jobs, which are the ones you will see they are the one who are actually attending the training session. So if newly trained employee feel ill equipped for the job, they are more likely to leave within the first 90 days. And as an HR professional, you would have seen this. So when you measure your training success this way, higher retention points to a successful training program can be seen. The same very way you can see increased sales. So many organization, I mean, we have also done this, honestly. You can track the efficiency based on sales. So if training is heavily geared towards the sales and the customer service front, the effective program will eventually increase the sales number. So you can actually measure that how much influential the sales had based on the metrics of the training the person had attended. The third is increased operational efficiency. Okay. Now, in highly production oriented business or a highly regulated set of organization, mostly you will find managers look for more efficiency and effectiveness, which raise the bottom line. So if your training program teach skills, look to the management efficiency metrics as a baseline. Before and after training intervention can actually tell you the great results. So if you're building a new program or a product training, look at the efficiency number to obtain direction on the training course content. And this will be again benefit for you. Then we have customer service results, right? Now, any organization can link the training to the customer service, which can be both internal as well as external. So customer service is also one of the easier place to start. One well-written survey can actually identify a host of customer related issues which can be actually addressed during the training program. So please remember that the training may not be the only solution to those issues. So you can actually understand through a customer survey and figure that out. Company defined scorecards, so a lot of organizations, so they have a daily run rate scorecard, they have a weekly, fortnightly, monthly scorecard, product based scorecard. So training outsource, you know uh, 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 they actually tend to use the client defined criteria to determine training effectiveness. So if your organization has a wide variety of possible measurement, sit down with your management, sit down with your boss, your stakeholders, and then create a custom scorecard based on expectations, and then the training program that need to be actually in place. Just don't end up making it just for a heck of it. You need to have a very strong output element what you're actually going to consider. Then we have a cost of training. So the cost of training, basically it is an internal to a training department, folks. So in high turnover organization, lowering cost per employees can be used as an effectiveness measurement. And the cost of training could also be related directly back to the retention. So it again depends on the requirement. Again, return on investment, that is ROI, we measure. So it has been a catch-all metric. Let me tell you, this is the common terminology which you will hear in HR, the catch-all metric. In some cases it's easy to define ROI, but in more cases, very difficult. Let me tell you, I have seen organization actually facing challenge into the ROI when they're using a Kirkpatrick model into the understanding what is the results of the training program, and they are only mostly organization focusing only on to the reaction side of the assessment and effectiveness. So my suggestion would be, please go deep dive. There are numerous ROI calculations which are available, and if you are so thinking, then look into the formulas, plug where you can, and make it a number driven in your organization. Trust me, if you can actually do that, you will see it will have an impact. I can see one more question coming up. Just a second. Okay, how do we measure the effectiveness of behavioral like team building or leadership? That's the challenge. Absolutely very true, Priyanka. But let me tell you, this is where the predictive element will come in. Okay, now for an example, in a team building or a leadership program, I should first put the enablers in place. Okay, in our training programs, you will find that you will, what we do is, for an example, now team building means so many enablers, so many parameters you can consider. You can check intrapersonal, interpersonal, communication, trust element, resiliency, so there are so many respect factor, trust factor. There are so many parameters. most important, my question answer to you would be, if you're working on team building, or if you're working on leadership, or for that matter any behavioral program, set an enabler. Those enablers should be not more than 3 to 4 numbers, right? And then once you give the training to the people, monitor them. So there should be a 90-degree or 180-degree or 360-degree evaluation. Okay, that is where we call human process intervention. And you will see that when you are doing it, so in team building, let's say you want to measure the respect element, you want to measure the trust element. Please define what you mean by trust and respect, because for every organization, if you call someone by name, that's a respect. But if you take a public sector, if you call somebody by name, it is not a respect. You have to call them by ma'am and sir. Okay, do you so the definition has to be very clear. So every enabler, please define where all you're going to measure it, and that is how you will see the culture is also start coming up and bringing in. So it is again you, and use 90-degree metrics or a 180-degree or 360-degree measurement. Involve your leaders, involve their so let's say 5 people have come for the training program. You need to include their peers, you need to include their bosses. They have to give them feedback, and then they have to monitor them very consciously. It's a big support that we need. Okay, so I agree, but at time managers are also not aware of the competencies. Again, Priyanka, that's the role of HR. The competencies needs to be understood, needs to be measured. So we have to sit and define it with them. Yes, this is where you have to work on it. The role of HR, if you will ask me personally, more is one of the toughest jobs. Somebody says that it is very easy to become a salesperson. I would say yes, it's very easy to become a salesperson. But if you're an HR professional, trust me, you are actually doing a very big task. You all are HR professionals. I totally get it from here. And trust me, for me, if you'll ask me, I salute you guys, I honor you guys, I give big compliment you guys. That is what the HR role is. Look at in today's COVID time how HR is functioning. So we should give a big pat to ourselves on this thing. So I hope, Priyanka, your question has been addressed here. Well, cool. So let me just move ahead further and make you guys understand on to the revenue generation aspect that I'm talking about. So please, the matrix which appears most likely on the combination of a sales number, operational efficiency, defects rate, customer service. So you need to figure that out onto the increasing number. Again, that will always help you to see the revenue element. And finally, the end user satisfaction. Yes, your audience can actually measure the effectiveness very quicker than anyone else, both immediately as well as on a later stage. So you can delay it, or you can work on it accordingly. So let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, using the data analytics in L&D to improve corporate training experience. So L&D professionals and educators, you would use data analytics more frequently when you're designing training courses. Now, how do we do that? Definitely, as I mentioned, we use Experience API platform, and also we use advanced statistical tool. Okay, so you can actually go deep dive inside by understanding the number of users accessing your course or program by assignment, the test results, the time spent on the course, or the number of course material which has been downloaded. Now, let me tell you an insight to it here. These example actually constitute when you collect and analyze your corporate trainings, the most important one. Okay, so recently I had attended one of the sessions, and you'll be so surprised that one of the key requirement into the COVID times. So see, I'm giving you one statistics here. So on the in when I talk about in 1980s, 90s, and in 2000s, early 2000s, the average time corporations spent training their employees actually were falling to 2.5 weeks to just 11 hours on an average. Now this is, I'm telling you, 2 decades back. Okay, if you will see today, receiving, which is nearly how the COVID has impacted learning, has, quickly become a center of the organizational response. You will be so surprised that, exploring the insight and stories from the learning leaders to help you to lead and guide your employees. And the new world of work is coming in. Employees are spending 130% more time in learning. 64% of L&D pros said that reskilling the current workforce to fill skill gap is more of a priority than ever before. And in the global front, they reported that 159% increase in CEO championing learning and L&D in their organization. So imagine how much training courses are getting designed and how much we are actually can gather by you understanding from data analytics. It actually comes from an experience. So you will find that things are actually shaping up and working on, and you will see I've got another data point for you all, that instructor-led training has shown a big dip by 54%, whereas virtual instructor-led training has increased by 83%. Online learning has again shown an increase by 59%. These are all short term, whereas when we see a long term, just look at the online learning, which has increased by, the projection is 74%. So my suggestion here is that you please use it. So I see one more question coming in. Okay. Okay. So there is no, I have to see, sorry. Okay. So, Ajay, you were asking me about API. API is a e-learning platform. So again, it's a kind of element where you can actually figure it out, how many programs are actually getting uploaded, how many people are actually using that. Just to give an example, if you have enrolled yourself in Coursera. Okay, so Coursera is a platform of MOOC where you will find a lot of courses are happening. So what all courses are happening, how many people are enrolling, you will see from the Experience API. So they are using that Experience API component. So again, it's a e-learning platform, a technical side platform, right? Okay, so let us try furthermore. Quick tips for you all, what you can do, ladies and gentlemen, to give you an insight. Okay, the first very important is start your analytics with a very simple question. That is your problem, what you're actually facing. That's the first key thing. Okay, the second is, when you have a problem, you will understand. Now let me give you an example with, because I could see a time management word coming in by one of the participants. So for example, how many people attended the time management training? How many managers have been able to complete the performance review after attending the training? Or for that matter, how many people are using the care planning system properly? When you have a very clear cut question, you will see the problem definition becomes very easy for the next step. The next step is to identify what data you need to answer, and then where will you get the data from. So if you have defined your questions properly in the first place, you will see, you will have a good idea of what you need and where you get it from. So at this stage, the main challenge might be you don't have access to the data you need to answer. So there you will become a challenging element. So that, as I said, data analytics can be very good when you have a set of data. Otherwise, it will be really difficult. And then once you have that, applying this process to designing and developing the learning intervention will be much, much easier. Once you have all the data in place, don't start developing and implementing an intervention. I'm making it very clear. The moment you have data, you saw it, please do not develop and implement an intervention. The next step should be, first, you should know how you will analyze the data. I personally believe this, where the, as an L&D practitioner, there they struggle here. They actually don't know how to analyze. So please, again, as I said in the starting of the session, use any tools, or else become an expert in Excel, and then start, or else take a support and suggestion from someone. And then the second thing is, once you've analyzed the data, you need to understand that and sit with your management and work on your descriptive statistics by looking at the mean, median, mode, and analyze the correlation and the element of regression, why, which variable is leading to which particular dependency, and so on. And then finally, once you have analyzed it, communicate it. And that is how the dashboard gets actually created. Now you can actually use that dashboard by simply putting into Power BI or else Tableau, or in the good old ways, use a PowerPoint, ladies and gentlemen, right? So let me tell you a quick insight here. Training and development, there are so many things that you all can do, and you can actually analyze your own set of role. You can work on average time, class size, e-learning abandonment rate, employee satisfaction with training, training channel and delivery mix. You can work on the course content breakdown. You can see the training quality, staff ratio, expense rate. On an educational development side, you can see how the staffing rate, the graduate degree, high potential element, educational attainment breakdown, tuition reimbursement request rate. So many times you will see that corporates send a lot of professionals to the higher studies, so figure that out accordingly. So let me ask you one question to all of you is, full-time equivalent, how do you calculate FTE? I mean, I'll just open this question to everyone and use the chat box. If you can share uh, what exactly is full-time equivalent formula. Anyone? Anyone can tell me the full-time equivalent formula? I hope I didn't ask the tough question right now. Okay, I could see someone is probably trying to unmute and share.
Yes, madam.
Yes, sir. All yours.
कृष्णान शुक्ला बोल रहा हूँ मैडम ये फुल टाइम फार्मूला इक्विवेलेंट टू हियर because मैं working in 15,000 employees in the organizations in Tata.
Acha.
So every employee having 3 days training is mandatory in the year.
Okay.
So their plan and they are releasing schedule making and share to their relevant senior managers, and they time to time release and taking training, and so maintain the line balancing, because no production losses, and training is also done by run of all their employees.
Okay. Okay. Great.
Okay.
Nice. Thank you so much. In fact, sharing about it. So let me put it in this manner for everyone here. Okay. Okay. Now, so full-time equivalent, basically, to put it in a very simple manner for all of you, is a ratio of the total number of paid hours during a period. It could be a part-time, full-time, or a contracted. Okay, by the number of working hours in that particular period. It could be from Monday through Fridays. So let me put it in a very simple example. Let's say you have 3 employees and they work for 50 hours, 40 hours, and 10 hours per week. Okay. Now, let me make it in a very simple manner. I'll try to use and share a whiteboard. Okay. So let me make it whiteboard and make it explain to you in a very simple manner. So let's say there are 3 employees. Okay. And these 3 employees work for 50 hours, then 40 hours. Okay. And then 10 hours. Okay. Now you will see the total has become 100 hours. Clear? So assume a full-time employee. So suppose I take Ashish Sharma. Okay, Ashish work as a full-time and he works for 40 hours per week. Okay, he works 40 hours per week. Okay, now the full-time equivalent calculation is 100, which we got it from the 3 employees, okay, divided by the full-time employee of the Ashish, which is 40. So FTE is 2.5. This is how we calculate. Now my input to all of you here is, okay, I will just reshare my screen again, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. Okay. Right. So my important input here is that whatever analysis that you're going to do, please ensure that your, the basics of your, formulas, questions are very clear, because there you will find it becomes very, very challenging. So rightly, when I got an answer from one of the participants that how into the assembly line they've been using it, so beautifully he mentioned. So thank you so very much for that. And please use such element very strongly, and you will use it and analyze it. So the various innovative ways to measure your training effectiveness, because we're talking about L&D as a part and T&D as a part. The first one is your visual proof. The second is measure with API. Again, it is nothing but experience API. It's a e-learning platform, as I mentioned earlier. Then we have measure software adoption. And in this, again, various software that you can work on. You also have measure while doing it. Okay. And in this, you will also work on analysis, analyze the training and the performance. You will work on the surveys and the feedbacks. And then definitely Kirkpatrick 4 level of evaluation. Right. So 4 level of evaluation, as it says, the first one is your reaction, then your learning, behavior, and your results. Okay. So please figure that out very strongly, that what you are actually considering and what you're actually looking at. Because if you will know what the results that you want, you will see the things becomes really, really clear for all of you. Okay. So let me try and make you understand on the visual proof. So visual proof is, you can see your data point very strongly visually. So it becomes a very important aspect, how you demonstrate your data. Measure with API, again, as I said, it's a platform, a e-learning platform. Use it very in a detailed manner to see the outcome of it. The adoption of maybe a BI or Tableau or Quicker or SPSS, Minitab, and then measure it by based on your independent and dependent variable. You can also measure it while doing it by using your Excel sheet. You can analyze the training performance again on the key requirement of what your organization demands. So every time you will see a different approach, a different way of working and learning here is. I could see one question, actually Ajay Batra was asking, what is API? My dear, as I mentioned, it is X API is, X is experience, API is application programming interface. I hope I have been able to answer this now. So here you will find in application programming interface for all of you, it works on an interaction between a multiple software intermediaries, right? So you will see the actually API can be entirely custom and based on the real component that you really want to work on, and you can actually design it as per the your requirement. So you'll see the technical people, they're working on it, understanding and using it very strongly, because it actually simplifies the programming based on your various objects and the action that you work on. So there is a graphical interface also, and there is a various input and output measurement, and there is a library component and the various framework which gets works. So it works with the Java bytecodes, and it's a procedural language that gets used. So I hope I have been able to answer on that. And then definitely analyzing the training performance, it could be based on your requirement, that are you looking at the completion rate of the program, or you're looking at the usage of that program, and how many people are actually performing in the day-to-day life in their corporate environment. And also when we look at it, feedback and survey, please take and consider feedbacks very, very strictly and importantly, because I have observed, if feedbacks are not considered, you will not get a real insight. And we have to understand why is it that feedback, whether it is good or bad, what was good, what was bad, it becomes very important. And the Kirkpatrick level, as I said, work on the results, which is like shows on the ROI. There are various other models of evaluation. So even we also have an evaluation model that is called Prism evaluation model. We the Philip 5 model, which focuses again on the element of understanding how much you spent and how much result. Because there is an opportunity loss of an employee when they come for a training program, and then an opportunity gain when they actually start giving a lot of business to the organization. So have an insight onto that, it will give you a lot of benefit. So that's from today's session. So if you want to reach out to me, I'm there on the LinkedIn, Anubha Walia, on the Facebook, Twitter, WordPress. So you can read a lot about HR and training front on my blog, which is anubhavalia.wordpress.com. So let us try and understand if you have any query and question for today's session. Although I try to take up major questions during the session. Let me try and understand here. Okay, so okay, oh yeah, so okay, Kumkum, you will get the recorded session definitely. Okay, thank you, Ajay. I hope you got that answer. It's my pleasure. It was my job to make you understand. Sorry, I didn't read your question earlier, but later I saw that. Okay, any other query and question from the audience? Okay, so Neha, you haven't received, you have not received it. Okay, so ISTD has just mentioned the YouTube channel. Again, I'm just putting it for you, so you can please use it and, open it in your assignment after this session. Okay, thank you so much, Ashish, for complimenting our session. I liked it. Truly appreciate, and it's an honor and pleasure. Thank you so much. Yes, Ajay, you will get all the previous recording in the past that we have done. Okay, so thank you so very much. We'll meet next week again. Yes, Ashish, I will definitely share. I will, as I mentioned, go to two blogs of ours. You can go to anubhavalia.wordpress.com or else prismphilosophy.wordpress.com. You will get a lot of, insight onto the trainings and L&D and a lot of learning that you can have from there. Okay, so I'm just penning it down here for all of you on the chat box so that it's easier, right? Okay, so I have mentioned both of them, anubhavalia.wordpress.com and prismphilosophy.wordpress.com. Great. You can in fact go to the Prism Philosophy website. So it's prismphilosophy.com. It's very easy to remember, and you'll get all the insight. Superb. Great. So thank you so very much for today's session. Namaste. We get connected again next week. Thank you. Pleasure. Bye-bye. Virtual hug and bye-bye.